All right, thank you so much. If you are live with me, I've been live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on TikTok. I'm as well live on Google Meet. I've shared the Google Meet link to my various community, and I believe that anybody who wishes to be part of the meeting can join through Google Meet, so you can have an opportunity to ask searching questions. Um, I'm going to be adding people while I am live. I'm seeing people making attempts to join. I don't know if the challenge they're having is that of network or if it is, I don't know what is really going on. Um, Yeah. Fortunately, unfortunately, I will still try to be live while trying to add people in the meeting. I'm live only on YouTube as well as on Instagram. Unfortunately, right now, I was told to work on the link of my Facebook, so we may not be live on Facebook. Thank you if you have joined us on YouTube or on Instagram. It's going to be a short one, and it's going to be an intro after 2 long weeks of not having to, come on live and chat with the people as I used to. So thank you very much for the patience, for um, um, how you have kept on, how you have held on. Even though I've not been able to come online, that have not stopped my active participation and support to numerous people who are ailing. On a daily basis, I have patients in my DM who I support. And sometimes I wake up by 4 a.m. and I try to respond to as much of the inquiries as possible. I have never faltered, even though I've not been able to come on live, but I'm always here because I see the pain of the people. I see what people are going through, and as always, I try to contribute my quota. That is my responsibility as a practitioner. So, like I said, it's going to be a short one tonight, and it's going to be about a silent epidemic, which is called sickle cell. And there are several other blood-related diseases. If time is with me, I'm going to make a mention of those diseases. So if you want to join, I also share the link of Google Meet. And thank you, Dr. Stella, as always, for being live with me here on Google Meet. Like I said, we are not able to connect live on Facebook because of some issues that I will need to resolve afterwards. However, I'm going to proceed. So I said it's about sickle cell. So on this day which is the 8th of August, we are going to look at it as a silent epidemic. We are going to look at what it is to us, and we're going to try to support those who are ailing as a result of this condition. All right. Like I used to say, you don't keep killing mosquitoes. If you have a dirty drainage gutter, it's a work in futility to continue to strive to kill mosquitoes from that gutter. I'd rather you do the work of cleaning the gutter so that you will indirectly chase away the mosquitoes. Because when you clean the gutter, you remove the breeding ground, you remove the environment that supports the proliferation of mosquitoes. And that is always my principle, my dictum, my purpose. No matter what anybody is going through, we will try to clean the gutter that breeds the disease. And that is why it appears we talk so much about the terrain. And that's the same thing I do when I approach cancer. That's the same thing I do when I approach diabetes. The same thing I do when I approach hypertension, kidney failure, liver issue. We first of all address the terrain because it's the terrain that breeds the disease. And until that is done, every other thing you are doing is palliative. And not as if I don't believe in palliative, but a disease that can be cured should and must be cured. So today, I want to be very honest with you about a disease where that metaphor has limits. Because sickle cell disease is not a gutter problem. It is written into the blood itself, in the genetic code. Before a child takes their first breath, it's already determined, it's already settled. And that honesty matters a lot because in our community, on the WhatsApp group, on the social media, in the villages, even in London here, I keep hearing the same dangerous whisper that there is a herbal cure for sickle cell. There is, for now, no proven herbal cure for sickle cell. Of course, I have colleague who is based in Manchester who have worked so much for so many years on what is called the stem cell therapy for sickle cell. And if you have a sickle cell, patient, or you have a sickle cell friend, or maybe you unfortunately have that sickle cell disease, you will follow the protocols I will try to initiate tonight. Well, however, I will still recommend that you use the um, stem cell therapy that a colleague of mine is offering, which have a proven record to work. So today, I want to also share what can help you. What's the barrier that we have in Nigeria and why closing this gap is one of the most solvable problems in Africa, especially as it addresses healthcare. If we clean the right gutter. Now, why I said the right gutter here is because, like I said, sickle cell is written in the genetic code. So cleaning the right gutter have so much to do with selecting the right partner. But now we are addressing people who already have the condition. So it's not the time to look at how you select a partner. But I want us to first of all understand what sickle cell is. Sickle cell disease comes from a single inherited change in the hemoglobin gene. When a child inherits that changed gene from both parents, their red blood cells can distort into a rigid sickle shape. Especially this can happen under stress, under low oxygen, under dehydration, under cold, under infection, and under um, some little cell blocks. Before I go on, I'm going to bring on board a sickle cell patient. So permit me to add her to this session. Permit me to add her to this session, please. Um, Permit me to add her to this session or WhatsApp. Uh, WhatsApp. Since I relocated, I've not been able to network my system as I used to. However, I'm going to, or it's asking me to start afresh to log in. So that's not what I think I will be able to do now. I think I'm going to proceed. Rather, I'm going to add her on Google Meet. So 1 minute, let me try to add her to Google Meet. I'll try to add her to Google Meet and then we can proceed. All right, thank you. I've sent her specifically the invite link to Google Meet. So when she joins, I'm going to add her. All right, thank you again. So I said that the challenge we have with sickle cell is the distortion into a rigid sickle shape. And that is what will change the course of the person's health, especially when under stress, leading to low oxygen or dehydration. It could also be when there is cold. It could be exacerbated when there is infection. And this mishappen, the cells that block the small blood vessels. That is where the crisis comes in. That's the pain. That's in some people, it can lead to organ damage. So this is not a toxin. It's not a terrain imbalance that we can flush out. Like I said, it is structural. And that distinction matters a lot because I'm a terrain person, because it tells us exactly where our energy should go, not towards reversing the genotype, but towards preventing the crisis, having understand the reason for the crisis. It's towards the therapies that can change its course. Now, there is a reality that I want to talk about, unfortunately, as it concerns Nigeria. A lot of us are not aware in the sub-Saharan Africa, there's a very serious, I call it overwhelming majority of the world sickle cell births each year. And Nigeria carries one of the largest shares of that burden on the continent. Now, the tools that dramatically reduce death in this disease are not exotic. They are newborn screening, penicillin, prophylaxis, especially against infection, vaccination, and a medicine called hydroxyurea that will change how the disease behaves in the body. There's a Nigerian research review this year that pointed to something painfully familiar to those of us practicing, especially outside the big teaching hospitals. The patchy rural specialist coverage, inconsistent hydroxyurea and diagnostic access, and there's no standardized national protocol connecting one center of excellence to the next. So that is the real gutter, not just about the blood, it is the system. Of course, there's real movement though, and I want to give credit where it is due. Nigeria, for instance, have hosted the Global Sickle Cell Congress in Abuja, and they did this year. The Federal Ministry of Health has been working with the National Health Insurance Authority to bring newborn screening and subsidized hydroxyurea into the national insurance package so that it will be easy for families who have a sickle cell to access this. And even more than 700 genetic counselors have been trained and are now in the field across the country. In Kano, I remember one Aminu teaching hospital where they built a newborn screening program, and they did that from the ground up. So they continue to screen thousands of infants with local religious leaders who continue to support the effort. And it's now becoming a standard care. That's the bill, that's the proof that this is buildable city by city. There's also encouraging clinical data specific to us. A Nigerian-led trial which published in a major hematology journal showing that the hydroxyurea will reduce stroke risk in children with sickle cell anemia, and it will do that even when they are at home. So this is not a borrowed evidence from elsewhere. This is something, a data that have been collected here in Nigeria and Africa at large. Now, I want us to look at where the type of what I do fits in. That's what I call the integrative care. I want to be precise here because precision is a form of respect for people who have sickle cell. We have the integrative terrain-based support, which has a real and a humble role. That is, number one is the hydration protocol. Hydration, because especially of our type of climate in Nigeria, where we have that sun, hitting on the earth and zapping up the level of hydration that we ought to have. And that will, if we build hydration, if you see that when I talk about hydration, I have two specific recommendations as to hydration. I talk about the green juice where I involve and add lots of green blends. You have the cucumber, you have the beetroot, you have the broccoli, you have the cabbage, you have the spinach, there are lots of them which, if time permits me, I'm going to, bring them to bear again. Apart from that, I also have the anti-inflammatory and blood circulation elixir. Very, very important because blood circulation has so much to do in stabilizing the health of a sickle cell patient. So I will continue in the education because my purpose is to give people the best chance and the best quality of life. So we talk about nutritional sufficiency. That is where we want to involve as much as possible what is called folate, because the cell works very well when it has these folates. In fact, it will determine how fast that our cells turn over. And again, we have the psycho-emotional support for a condition that brings unpredictable and often severe pain into people's life, especially people who either they have a sickle cell patient or they are in themselves, sickle cell patients. So what integrative care does is not to replace the hydroxyurea, not to replace transfusion programs, not to replace penicillin prophylaxis, especially in little children, or not to replace hematologist pain crisis plan. The aim is to reduce the chances of a crisis. That's the most important thing. So if anyone, including someone who is already having the condition, imbibes the protocol, the person will definitely improve the outcomes. All right. So this is what it is. So my call tonight, if you are a parent or if you are a sickle cell patient, if you are a Nigerian, if you are an African, you need to ask about the newborn screening. It is becoming more available, and knowing these facts early in life can change the outcome. If you are living with sickle cell, find a comprehensive care unit or clinic, and don't just try to manage it without support, or maybe especially when you are having the crisis, because I want you to always see it as an emergency. It's not a symptom for you to wait out for. If you are in our community where we continue to talk about the things that will support your health, it is important and imperative for you to imbibe those things and to support yourself. Clean the right gutter. In this disease, like I said, the gutter is not just the blood, it is access. Access, the access that you give to it. Remember, as always, my aim is to improve the quality of life. That is my aim as always. My aim is to put you in the trajectory of health. My aim is to reposition you and to channel your efforts so that there will be a productive effort. So I am going to go ahead now and share some things. I see some people that wants to join, but 1 minute, let me share some certain things that I think will work if anybody under the sound of my voice who has this condition will imbibe it. And I'm going to try to be clear and explain it as much as possible. Okay? But before then, let me add the people who want to join, because lots of people want to join. So let me add them and then I can proceed. All right, thank you so much. Please, can you put your microphone on mute if you join? Because, yeah, thank you so much. So remember I said earlier, for anybody who has sickle cell, I make several recommendations, but I'm going to mention two of the recommendations. Earlier, I talked about the blood circulation and anti-inflammatory elixir. That is where I emphasize the importance of having the juice combo of, um, the hibiscus, what we call zobo, and the beetroot because it's rich in nitrates, and the celery, the cayenne pepper, which is one of the best spices that supports blood circulation. That's why I call it anti-inflammatory and blood circulation elixir. Another thing that you can add to it is the turmeric. If you have any patient with sickle cell, please, this is an important juice combo. It's one of the proprietary juice blend that I propose, and I believe that they are going to support anybody who has sickle cell. All right. Now, I talk about the oxygen and blood support juice. Because sickle cell is a blood disease, my foremost recommendation is that you start making this combo. And it's not complicated, it's very simple. I just request, for instance, one medium cucumber. If you get one medium cucumber for me, then you can get 2 sticks of celery stalk. Now, celery stalk you can find when you locate people who sell salad vegetables. Again, you can get one handful of spinach, and then you can add it one green apple. Then you can add half juice of lemon. I'm just talking about a normal dose that you can take sitting at a place. Okay. Now you can also add um, uh, a little fresh ginger. You can put everything in the blender, blend it with 250 ml or 2 glasses of water. Then you can, put in a clean cloth and press it. I call it straining. When you blend it until it's smooth, then you can strain it with a clean cloth, and then you can start taking the juice. Ideally, it is going to be hydrating, it's going to be anti-inflammatory, and it's going to boost blood circulation. I've said often, cucumber and celery will help in optimal hydration. I mentioned folate as one of the most important vitamins required for sickle cell, and that is rich in the spinach. So if you added a handful of spinach, it will provide folate and other nutrients. All right. Again, I talked about adding apple. Adding just one green apple will add a boost of energy and vitamin C. Again, I talked about ginger. Adding a little cube of ginger to the blend. That ginger will help in digestion. It will help to fight nausea. You notice that if you have this sickle cell disease, you will have that regular symptom of nausea and vomiting. And that's why we are adding ginger. And lemon is there not only to improve the flavor, not only to boost the integrity of the blend, but also to add a bunch of vitamin C to the thing. So if you drink this with a protein-rich breakfast, when I talk about a protein-rich breakfast, remember, I always mention protein because it is the body building food. I am not suggesting you take a cup of tea and drink this juice. I'm not suggesting you eat rice and drink this juice. I'm not suggesting you eat yam or potato and drink this juice. And it's not as if these things are poison. But I'm just trying to show you a sure-proof way to reduce the rate at which you have crisis. If you follow the protocol, you are likely going to stay for 3 months without crisis, because crisis is almost always as a result of stress and diet. And if we are able to tackle diet, it will be easy for you to tackle stress. So when I talk about a protein-rich breakfast, you can have 2 boiled eggs. Boiled eggs are protein-rich. You can have yogurt. But now I'm not talking about the sweetened yogurt. I'm not talking about the yogurt with flavors, strawberry flavor, blackberry flavor, and all these chemicals that are added as sweeteners. I'm talking about plain Greek yogurt. It is a protein-rich breakfast. I do have it. And in my own, I used to add avocado. I used to add other mixed nuts. The mixed nut, I can add bunch of pistachio, almond nut, walnut, Brazil nut, cashew nut. I can add up to 6 different nuts, So the essence is to make a nutrient-dense breakfast. As always, what you can use in recovery is what you can use to stabilize health. Anything that cannot assist in recovery of health cannot stabilize health. Again, the second juice blend I mentioned, and I want to read out again the ingredients, is what I call the anti-inflammatory recovery juice. This is extremely important, and I recommend it especially in the afternoon when you are, apt to have your lunch. And here, for a regular dose in one day, I recommend half cucumber. I recommend 1 carrot as a combo. You're going to chop all these things and put in a blender. Put half of beetroot. Put a handful of parsley. You know the importance of parsley. You can put half of a green apple, and you can put a little turmeric in it. Or if you have turmeric powder, you can add half teaspoon. You can add a small pinch of black pepper. Black pepper is like a Trojan horse that takes the ingredients, the phytochemicals, and all these things I mentioned direct to the blood. And then you can blend it with about 250 ml of water. Just put these things in the blender, blend it well, and use your regular clean cloth to strain it. Now, why am I suggesting this? I'm adding beetroot because beetroot supplies dietary nitrates, and nitrates will support the blood vessel function. It will help to dilate the blood vessel. It will help for blood to flow easily. Again, why am I adding carrots? I'm adding a stick of carrot because of beta carotene. Beta carotene is an antioxidant that will support health and the functionality of the body, especially the blood. Again, I talk about parsley. Parsley is one of the, I will call it a leafy green vegetable spice that will support purification of blood, that will support the activities of kidney. We all know that the kidney purifies the blood, okay? So adding a handful of parsley will contribute not only in the purification of the kidney and the blood, but also in supply of micronutrients. And mind you, parsley is also endowed with vitamin C. Now, when I talk about turmeric, why am I adding a little pinch or half spoon of powdered turmeric in the mix? It's because turmeric is an anti-inflammatory spice, and turmeric have numerous evidence in sickle cell disease. So that's why this combo is important. Now, I mentioned two different combos that you can use always to support yourself, no matter what kind of crisis you used to have. First of all, you will notice reduced amount in the crisis. And next, you will start seeing that this crisis will stop coming. It's possible to have sickle cell and live without the crisis because we are removing the stress and we are removing the dietary connotations, the things that propel or that bring on the crisis. Okay? So I am encouraging, apart from these two types of juices, I'm encouraging protein. Protein is not only a bodybuilding food, it's also a blood building food. So in that protein, I talk about eggs, I talk about fish. I specifically recommend mackerel. I specifically recommend salmon and sardines. This will go a long way. I do not recommend chicken. And the reason is because if it is not a local chicken, then that chicken will, load you with lots of omega 6, which will affect your blood flow and which is already having inflammatory components in it. Because most of those birds that are raised within 6 weeks have loads of antibiotics and hormones, and they are fed grains. All right, they are fed grains. So when I say cut down your carb and you are eating chicken that are fed grains, at the end of the day, you are eating the same thing. You are loading yourself with the same effects that you will see produced by taking so much carbohydrates. I recommend beef, especially grass-raised, grass-fed, grass-finished. And why I recommend beef is because I know that the so-called Fulani men in Nigeria, they don't do grain feeding of cow. Rather, what they do is grass-fed, grass-finished. Is that not the reason why we will be having issue with it's called farmer headers clash? All right. I'm sorry, my light just went out now, but thank God I have a second ring light. Okay. So I recommend beans. I recommend lentils. These things should be a staple for you if you have a sickle cell disease, or if you have a friend, if you have a sibling, if you have a daughter, a son who has sickle cell disease. I recommend avocado. I already mentioned it is part of the blend that I make when I make my guacamole, where I add the Greek plain yogurt. I recommend plenty of vegetables. That's why I think the best type of swallow is the one that you blended in vegetables. And I have discovered an easier way to do this swallow. And that easy way is if you chop all the vegetables you want to use for this in the blender, be it the cabbage, the garden egg, the broccoli, the cauliflower, the carrot, the spinach, all these vegetables, including the bitter ones that you may not like to eat, when you juice it. Those ones is an opportunity for you to get them to pass through your gut without you tasting them, because it's now swallow for you. So when you get all these things together in a blender, you now add 1 or 2 glasses of water and a glass of oats. Now, when you add that glass of oats, you notice that after blending, it will now look like smoothie. You know, when you want to make your moi moi, you put your beans and add water and blend until it will look like pap. You know pap. It will look like a smoothie. So that is typically what I encourage people to do now. Blend everything together in the blender and pour it into a pot. Don't add any water because you already added water while you were blending the vegetables with the oats. So just pour it in a pot, scoop everything into the pot, and as it's cooking for 3 to 5 minutes, continue to stir until it becomes firm. Why it's going to become firm is because you blended it with a cup of oats. So the oats will become the thickener. The oats will drain the water and make it firm for you to eat. If you follow this protocol, you will not only cut down your crisis, you will change the outcome. I am not promising that your genotype of SS will change. No. But what I'm telling you is if you follow the protocol, you will cut down the crisis by 90%. And one more thing, and this herb I want to talk about now is not my formulation, it's not my making. But if you look at the annals, if you follow the book, if you are studious, if you put the question as a prompt on any of the AI platforms like the Gemini AI or ChatGPT or Cloud AI, you ask it the most important herb for the blood, the most important. It will tell you it is the red clover. If you have sickle cell disease and you don't want to experience the crisis again in your life, I want you to follow this protocol and add red clover. As a matter of fact, red clover has proven evidence of efficacy even in not only sickle cell, but in leukemia. You know, leukemia is blood cancer and several other blood diseases. Red clover. Please, as always, if you can't find red clover in Nigeria, go on Amazon, go on any foreign site, request it. Ask me for my postcode and house address. Let them deliver to me. I will look for people, our people who are traveling to Nigeria, and I will send it to them so you can get it. So you won't say because you can't find red clover in Nigeria that you won't be able to use it. I am going to avail you the opportunity. Look for it anywhere on Amazon. Once you find it, if you're able to make payment, pay for it and direct it to be sent to me. Request for my address in the inbox and I will send you with my postcode. When I receive it, if I find anybody who is traveling, I will send it to them. If I don't find, I've perfected a way to send things from here through the post office. In fact, every, to be precise, every EVRI. So anything that you can find, please do well. As a matter of fact, I have a friend I'll be going to drop off in the airport tomorrow. And I gave lots of supplements, orders that were placed by people. And once she arrived tomorrow, we'll find a way to get it dispatched to everybody who placed the order. As a matter of fact, I did a lot of research and I came up with another topical cream that can be used on breast cancer that works better than tranexamic acid. And we're going to test run it once it gets to Nigeria tomorrow. So please go on Amazon or go on any foreign site like the eBay, like the Etsy, like the Temu, look for red clover. Don't limit yourself. We now live in a global village. That's what the world is. If you don't know how to receive it, request for my postcode. I will help you receive that thing from Amazon. And when I find somebody traveling, I will send it. If I don't, we can send it to every and it doesn't cost much, especially when you send in batches. It doesn't cost much to do that. So please, if you have any questions, this program specifically was designed for a sickle cell patient. However, she joined us late. um I noticed again when I sent the link to the group, she couldn't join on time, so she joined off us late. So I have a special protocol package I will send to her as a text message to follow. I've always made her that promise. I was supposed to support her with this session last week Sunday, but was carried away with events, as I have explained, because of um, moving home. So if you have any questions, if there are things that you couldn't get clarity on, please do well to drop the question in the WhatsApp, or if you are following on Instagram and YouTube, do well to drop the question. And don't worry, I will talk with my editor to work on this so that I will repost it on Facebook for our community on Facebook. It's already 1 minute past 9. Our time is fast spent. So please do well to drop the question on the any of the streaming platforms, and I will respond to the question. So thank you again for those of us that joined on YouTube or Instagram, and those of us that joined on Google Meet. Thank you once again for being live with me. Thank you, Dr. Stella, and thank you, Maureen Gold. Yeah, thank you, Christy Anne, for being live with me. I pray that God will grant us our desires, our heart desires, and grant us a wonderful night rest. I'm sorry for all the delays in coming on for the past 2 weeks. I have already sent out my apology, and I believe that it will continue to get better going forward. Thank you again, and have a wonderful night rest. All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. All right. Thank you, Dr. Stella. Thank you. All right. Okay. Yeah. Bye. Yeah, bye. Mhm. Oh, apụgo na meeting. Ndị mmadụ aka nọdụkwa na meeting. Ihe na-emezi. A na-achọ ka esi apụ. Onye ọbụla apụsịala. Hey, na adesi na o kwetara n'ihe nyọ ya. O kwetara. Or say, oh no, it will be too early. Enyi Jizọs ka mma ma maka ya nwaanyị na nwa ya ha gbawa tren gbawa nke a, enyi Jizọs ga-achọ ka o dupu ha ọma ndị isi yọta. Eme ndị asị ka mma ma nga adọpụ ha, mana ọ bụrụ na ndị a sị ndị anụ m ihe a ndị street estate nwee ka ha ma mma agrii Mọnde